Welcome back. This is the third lesson recording for IM2, March 8th, 2021. I ran out of time when I was doing the last problem, so this is where I left. Okay, so from here I can split up dividing by 2 to each of the terms. As long as I do it to each of them, that's because everything is being divided, so I can divide it separately. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 4 times I root 3 divided by 2 is 4 divided by 2 is simplifies to 2 I root 3. With that, you are going to be working on card number 10 to 13 of Desmos. Here we go. So we have to solve 3x squared plus 9 is equal to 0. So I write 3x squared plus 9 is equal to 0. Okay, what is the easiest way to solve when you have something squared and a term? You're missing the middle term, the x term. The easiest way is by doing square rooting. So we bring the 9 to the other side, so this becomes 3x squared. Negative or positive 9 is negative 9. Then you divide both sides by 3. And you're left with x squared is equal to negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. And you're taking a square root of both sides. And remember, when you take a square root of both sides with a variable inside the square root, then you need to put plus or minus. And then that left hand simplifies to x, and on the right hand side simplifies to positive root 3. Plus or minus, what is negative root 3? Negative 3, square root of negative 3 can be simplified as square root of negative 1 times square root of 3. So this is same as square root of negative 1 is I multiplied by square root of 3. So x could be positive I root 3 or negative I root 3. And the solution is complex. Okay, what is the real part of this? Okay, so if you have x is equal to positive I root 3, and x is equal to negative I root 3, this is the imaginary part. What is the real part? It is like 0 plus. The real part is 0. The real part is 0. The imaginary part is positive root 3i or I root 3 or negative I root 3. Next up, I have negative 5x squared is equal to negative 105. So negative 5x squared is equal to negative 105. Remember, the easiest way is to use square rooting, but I want it to be x squared. So I want to get rid of everything around x squared. So divide both sides by negative 5. That cancels out and you're left with x squared is equal to, that's going to be 10 goes into 5. 5 goes into 10 2 times and 21. The negative divided by negative is positive. It's actually positive. So then from here you take a square root of both sides, and when you do that with variable, you need to put plus or minus, and you're left with x on the left hand side is equal to plus or minus. Does square root of 21 have does it have any perfect square factors? Is it divisible by 4? Is it divisible by 9? Is it divisible by 16? No. So it does not. That means it is just going to be plus or minus square root of 21. You can write it as it is, or you can write x is equal to positive root 21, or x is equal to negative root 21. Alternatively, you could also write root 21, comma, negative root 21 as well. And in this case, the solutions do not have any imaginary part. So this is not a complex solution. This is a real solution. Next up, solve 5x squared minus 4x plus 6 is equal to 4x using quadratic formula. Okay, so you have 5x to the power of square minus 4x plus 6 is equal to 4x. Okay, so we need to set it to use the quadratic formula, we need to set to equal to 0, so we need to get rid of 4x. We need to bring it to the other side, so we subtract 4x from both sides and you're left with 5x squared minus 8x plus 6 is equal to 0. Now I can use my quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b, so it's going to be negative of negative 8 plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so then that simplifies to negative of negative 8 is going to be positive 8 plus or minus negative 8 all squared is 64 minus 4 times 5 is 20, 20 times 6 is 120 all over 10, and that's going to be 8 plus or minus square root of 64 minus 120 is going to be 56, and negative 56, and that's square root of negative 56 all over 10, and that's 8 plus or minus, okay, 56, does it have any perfect squares? It's certainly divisible by 4, so I can do that. That's going to be square root of 4 times square root of 14. 4 times 14 is 56, and to that we also need to multiply by negative 1 because we had negative 56 all over 10, and that is same as 8 plus or minus square root of 4 is 2, and square root of 14 I cannot do anything with that, and square root of negative 1 is I, so it's going to be 14 all over 10. And again, I can break this up as well. I can also factor out 2. Okay, I can factor out 2. So what I could do, what's this? Okay, I can factor out 2 from here. That becomes 2 times 4 plus or minus 2 times, I've already taken 2 into there, so it's going to be I root 14 all over 10 is same as 2 times 5, right? So then 2 and 2 cancels out, and you are left with 4 plus or minus I root 14 all over 5, and that's my final answer. And because we have this I here, the imaginary number, the solution is complex. Okay, last problem, 12x squared minus 6 is equal to 3x. So again, 12x squared, I need to bring the 3x to the other side by subtracting, so it becomes negative 3x minus 6 is equal to 0. So from here, the first thing I should do is divide everything by 3, because it's a common factor is going to be 3. So that leaves me with 4x squared minus x minus 2 is equal to 0. Why do I do that? Even when I'm using the quadratic formula, when I deal with smaller numbers, the method is going to be much easier. So that means a is 4, b is negative 1, c is negative 2. So x equals negative b, so it's going to be negative of negative 1 plus or minus square root of, what's negative 1 all squared? Minus 4 times a is 4 times negative 2 all over 2 times 4. And that's going to be positive 1 plus or minus square root of 1. Negative 4 times negative 2 is going to be positive 8. Positive 8 times 4 is positive 32 all over 8. And that is 1 plus or minus, we don't have square root of negative number, we have square root of positive number. That means it is going to be a real solution. And I cannot divide 8 by 1 or anything else, and square root of 33 cannot be simplified any further. So x is equal to 1 plus or minus root 33 over 8. They are my solution. There are two different solutions. One is going to be 1 plus root 33 over 8. The other is going to be 1 minus root 33 all over 8. And the solution is real. Okay, then finally you have to reflect on today's lesson and just move the robot as to how you feel about today's lesson. And that is it for today. So please add table of content, solving quadratic equations with complex number solution. Thank you for listening.